Hello, everybody. Welcome to Into the Score. My name is Avishai Darash. I'm your host for this podcast. In Into the Score, we get a chance to talk to people from very interesting industries such as music, arts, culture, and day-to-day politics. And I'm very excited about this podcast today because I have the great Mason with me.
Hey, hey, hey.
Mason, how's it going, man?
I think it's going well. Thank you. Good
Awesome.
to be here.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for doing this. I mean, it's funny because I just told Mason, I'm talking to the camera here, that we just got into a conversation. I was like, just a second, wait, because...
Let's press record.
Exactly.
Yeah, we were already going, yeah.
We were already going into...
Yeah, you can talk for hours about music, right?
Exactly. And I mean, that's the thing that is so interesting about this podcast is that we don't necessarily talk about the music, we talk about the person behind it.
Right.
Know? And could you tell about yourself? Could you tell about like what brought you into it?
Sure. First of all, both my parents were artists, not in music, but different sorts of arts. So I guess my upbringing was quite free. They were hippies, I suppose. And so there was a lot of encouragement to kind of find your own, as long as you really work hard for it, go your own path, also in the creative world. So for me, that was music. Actually, yeah, it feels like I had like 5 different lives. When I was really young, I used to sing in TV shows.
Really?
As a sort of kid. I was recognized on the street as a kid and stuff. Yeah, I'm a lousy singer. But when I was 6, apparently it looked cute or something. And but it kind of sparked something because I, hang a lot in these kind of fancy music studios like Wisseloord when I was like between 7 and 10, 11.
It's an awesome studio, Wisseloord.
Yeah, especially back then because like all these Madonnas and Bonos were recording it. It was really their prime time in the 80s. And during breaks, all the other kids, because it was this sort of, there was only one TV show and it was like a big kids singing thing called Kinderen voor Kinderen. All the other kids in the breaks would go play football outside. And I would stay in to hang around with the guy with the ponytail, shack smoking, doing the SSL console, and I was like, basically all the blinking lights was just attracting me. So I felt like this is what I want to do. I want to hang in smoky studios the rest of my life. My studio now is non-smoking, but that's the only, apart from that, it kind of worked out. So that was a starting point, and I always played violin from a very young age, and when I was a teenager, I started to also DJ and then produce, and then kind of one thing led to the other, and yeah, that kind of took over.
Yeah, and was it like something that, I mean, you just said about the TV program and coming in contact with the SSL console and coming in contact with the studio.
Yeah.
Actually putting you on TV, was it from your parents or was it from you? Like, what was the...
No, there was, back in the 80s, it was kind of one Dutch TV channel, and this was the sort of the big kids show where everybody would buy the album and they would sing on TV. And yeah, so it was, when I was young, it was kind of the cool thing. So I really wanted to do audition. And you could only do audition, I think, if you were living like 5 kilometers away from it, because you had to go there 3 times a week or so. I really wanted to do audition. I couldn't read. And back then I thought I got in because I could actually sing, but apparently it was just because I was wearing sort of cute glasses and whatever. It was all yeah. Anyway.
And I mean, okay, you come in contact with the SSL console. You're 6 years old.
Yeah.
Kids are playing outside football, and you're like, I just want to sit here in a smoky studio.
Yeah.
Because you kind of like cut, and then I had a violin, and then the music. I want to hear like really the path.
Right.
The reason I'm asking is because we are living in an age where people are just seeing final product.
Yeah.
But at the same time, because we have these beautiful platforms and podcasting and long form conversations, people get the chance to actually know the person better. So what happened after that?
Right. Well, I was always involved in music, and I started violin, which was classical.
How old were you?
6.
6, okay.
Yeah, so I did that, medium serious. I definitely wasn't good enough for a career, but I also didn't quit, where a lot of people quit when they're a teenager, So I kept it going. But I also started to really get into hip hop when I was like 12, 13, and at some point got my grandparents' turntables and a mixing desk and tapes, and it was all very before there was audio on computers, for instance. So it was all yeah, it was all very analog. And so I really loved that. And I was really kind of, I guess, you know, as you are an insecure teenager, you know, you really kind of, you carve your identity a little bit. And for me, that was really DJing, especially when I was like 15. So that was mid-90s. And quite soon, it sort of, I moved into house music. Accidentally, actually, because I bought a hip-hop record and at a vinyl fair, and I got home and it was house remixes.
Wait, you want to tell me that you, by mistake, stumbled into house music?
Yeah, so we were like these sort of 14, 15-year-old guys wearing all these sort of hip-hop
drip,
you know, living the lifestyle.
Pants big enough to fit in 3 kids.
And so let's go to vinyl fair. And I got Ice-T Cop Killer, I remember. And I got home, even the title, come on, it was pathetic. I got home and it was house remixes. And we're like, you know, I feel it's not the same anymore as it was in the 90s, but back then, like high school, it was really sort of on the left side where the alternative kids were with the gothic stuff, and on the right side where we had gabbers back then, and you know, you had hip hop crew and who were skating, and so it was really sort of subcultures based, and so we obviously kind of had zero respect for people into house music, but then I had these house remixes, and we were like looking at each other like sort of, can I kind of say that I kind of like this? And I remember I also once had like a CD single of The Prodigy, and I didn't tell my friends because I felt like, it's not hip hop, you know.
Prodigy is so genius.
Man. Yeah. Anyway, that's what high school life is about, I suppose. Anyway, I digged it, and next time I went to a record store, they didn't have hip hop because it was a different record store, and then I said, they also have some house records, and that's kind of one thing led to the other.
Yeah. And what was because you say like you got turntables and a mixer, what brought you actually to the creation of this music? Because there is a difference between the two. Yeah,
especially. So that kind of goes back to me being 6 years old in the consoles. I wanted to do something and study something, music, sort of audio engineering or music production. I didn't really know. And then I had a cousin who had like a sort of hardware sequencer, 303 kind of thing. A Roland thing he had back then, and I was playing around on that. So then I kind of thought like, I want to mess around with this too. And I don't think there was a master plan. I think right now people kind of know that if you're DJing, kind of next step is to also produce those records.
Right.
I at least I don't remember that I consciously felt, okay, career-wise, this is the thing I need to do. Yeah. It was more like a road towards studios that I wanted to get into. But once I started with that, it was like 97 or so, I think. I really loved that, and it obviously sucked. I think the learning curve, you know, took a lot longer than nowadays when you have plugins. There was no audio, there was no software instrument, so you need to have a sampler, have a synthesizer, have a sequencer of sorts, and so I was just fooling around with that, and I really liked that. And my DJing was kind of taking off a bit, as in was earning some money with it and going abroad sometimes and got a residency in Amsterdam and stuff like that around that time. So,
and that was mainly house music?
Only,
okay, so you took a complete hiatus from the hip hop.
Yeah, totally. Within Rum Records, basically.
Great.
Yeah, that was quite a hard cut. And also started to hang out with different people and got into, I was living in the suburb, but, you know, got some connections into Amsterdam. So then my whole focus was getting out of the suburb and playing in Amsterdam, basically.
Yeah. What is the importance of community within the music industry?
Oh, that's big. I think my most sort of the moments throughout my career that I cherish the most were the periods where we're doing something in a community and doing it together with a bunch of people. Yeah. We had, for instance, a period where we're doing these electro nation parties in the Netherlands, which was just with a group of people every week, parties in different places, a bunch of DJs, a bunch of graphic designers, lighting people. You know, we're just a crew. Yeah. And it's just, there's something so romantic and cool about it. It's massive. And I think also for, nowadays it's 150,000 new songs on Spotify per day. Yeah. Every day now there are more releases than in 1989 as a year. So community and association is also very important in that sense. So to be part of a community, to be part of a label that has a following, or to be, under the hood of a bigger artist, and it's all, it's also all really important. It really helps to get noticed. Yeah.
Yeah, because just before we started the podcast, I mean, we, like I said in the beginning, it's like we got into this like conversation. It was like it kind of clicked off immediately, and we talked about audience building.
Yeah.
Actually, what do you think the importance of audience building also there? How integral is it to the success of an artist?
Yeah. So if you rewind to a few decades ago, basically big labels were gatekeepers who were the only ones who could get you to both invest in the studio. It was very expensive to get a recording of an album. Okay.
Is it mine? No, it's
so.
Sorry, what? It's mine.
Oh, okay.
Oh, just 1 second.
Yeah. Siri is joining in on the conversation. Yeah. I won't mention the word Spotify anymore because otherwise your phone is off.
Big Brother is listening, yeah.
Yeah, so where we were back in the days, like record labels were gatekeepers. They were investing in the studio to be possible to make an album because it could cost easily like 200 grand or something. Yeah. And also the ones that had to invest in producing the physical product and getting it into all these shops, into shelves, and having the network of radio. And so basically, they would kind of decide what was getting out there, and a record label would maybe sign 20 artists, and 10 would fail, and 3 would make up for it, and that was kind of the infrastructure. And now it's fully democratized. Anyone with a laptop of €300 can make music, and so there's no costs anymore for the investment of an album or of a song, for a label at least, and there's also no costs anymore of distribution because. If you make something in your bedroom within one click, there are companies like TuneCore and stuff that kind of take 10%, and then they make sure it gets onto Spotify and Apple and all these places.
Absolutely.
So on both sides, it's democratized. Also, to make music is easier. And I'm the last person to ever say like it was better in the past, because it wasn't. But it's right now. There's just because of that. There's so much music. So back to your question, is a community important? Yeah, of course it is, because like I think there's 60% of music gets streamed less than 5 times. So there's like this desert of music that's just, there might be some great stuff there, but just people don't know about it.
Yeah.
So the story, association, getting a community is fundamental. And there are also some, it's awesome to have a fan-artist relationship, but I know a lot of people are struggling with the whole social media and presence and feel... For a lot of people, it feels very forced and difficult, and it's maybe also not what you thought of when you started in the music industry, that you had to become a semi-influencer.
Well, it also, I mean, it's funny because there was these memes. I came across this meme of like Seinfeld sitting with George and saying like, "What are we doing here? What are we doing here?" There's like a moment in the series. I don't know if you know Seinfeld.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And then it says under it. What musicians feel today that they have to become content creators,
Yeah.
And because it kind of really changed in a way that no one could imagine since the revolution of streaming.
Yeah.
It became all of a sudden and the revolution of social media, of course. As a successful artist, what would be the advice that you would, well, no, let me rephrase it. Why do you think that some people actually don't get their music streamed? And they don't get that exposure that they're hoping for, because people are creating content, or let's say they're creating music. They put their hearts and soul into it, and they expect for something to reciprocate, to get that back. They bring it out, and then, like you said, 60% of it is only streamed 5 times. How can they make sure that their music gets to a larger, broader audience? Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't happen automatically. Even if you do all the steps right, it's still a roulette. It's a gamble, because it's just too much music out there. So it's to a certain extent you need to have a thick skin and don't give up after free field releases, because that's gonna happen, and you're gonna be turned down, and you're gonna have to be, you're not gonna get the playlists and all that. But yeah, you need to do the work on all sides. So it's creating community. It's and that can be on many different ways, right? It can be by doing podcasts to creating your own events, or having, in the past it was blogs, or being semi-journalist, or being having awesome playlists, or having a radio show. There are many ways how you can create a community, but it's essential. And there's for us, when I release, we always kind of attract PR companies and marketing companies to kind of help us with stuff,
right?
Because it just doesn't happen automatically. And I think what you're saying, like, it's we because of social media and streaming, but there's a third one, which is AI coming around the corner now. So the music production and music writing, the creating part, is gonna become even more easier and even more democratized, which takes a bit of the craft away. So then it's really about ideas, but also about stories, like who is this artist and why is he making this music. So I think the element of stories, like why this music, and is going to be even more important in the future. I think part of the the biggest album this year, I guess, was the Charlie XCX one, and very big part was also the whole Brad identity, and
very much
the story, and what it stood for, and the type of lifestyle for women. And it's so I think you can think of it what we want, you can like it or dislike it, but I think this is where we're at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I get excited when we talk about it, because it's like, I feel that, at least for me, for my personal career, I made that, I understood at some point. I was like, and we just talked about just before starting the podcast. Yes, the music could be the second coming of Christ, basically. Could be like Christ has, has risen and came and gave you the perfect track.
Yeah.
Without marketing and PR, without actually spreading it, it will not get the right traction for it. Without the story behind it, without the humanity actually behind it, it will not get to people. Like what you say right now, the story, how important that is. You know, because...
And it's also what labels, for instance, look for. They're like, okay, so what's the deal? Is it just a record? And even PR companies sometimes like, we're not going to do this. I mean, what's the... What story should we tell the world?
Yeah,
person X has record Y out. So okay, what's why? What's interesting about it?
And I mean the it's crazy because it's like, what is your unique selling point? I mean, I'm like a conservatory guy, and I wish they would just get in with the times also. A little bit, in the sense of, you have these highly proficient students that can play insane pieces, but there is this very important factor of what separates you from the other. And that the thing that will separate you from the other is the thing that will make sure that it's sustainable. Actually, do you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. But I also have a love-hate relationship with it. I mean, I can rationalize all this, but I can find my way in terms of marketing and creating a following a social, but it's also with ups and downs, and I also struggle with it sometimes. I mean, I think I found my voice and my way of doing it in a way, but I'm also not, I'm okay, but I'm not awesome at it, even also because I kind of don't like only spending my time on that. So it's so it's
Do you outsource it? Do you have
to a certain extent? But I think it's, at the end of the day, it's the story you need to tell, and especially with social media, it needs to be, there's also a bit of a direct, it needs to be who you are. But I kind of, I have my own sort of, found my tone of voice, what I'm about there. It's sure, in a ideal world, I would only be involved in music, I would say. But I still think the community side is really cool. It's really cool to have direct contact with fans, and it's really cool to get feedback from stuff, and what they like, what they don't like, and I really cherish the fans I have.
Did the experience that you have with violin, did it have a direct impact on the way that you produce? I mean, maybe it's like a trivial question, because of course that in the end, that is a big part of your path. But the fact is that you are a high-level producer and DJ, and you have it in your pocket to be able to play an instrument, to read music, to know that. Do you feel that that separates you, or does that actually help you?
Well, if I would be able to do it again, I would sort of choose keys or guitar and a heartbeat, just because it's so much more useful in the studio.
Right.
I mean, violin you can kind of never use almost, because even to get sort of a slick string sound is quite complicated with one violin. Because
of the tuning. Yeah.
Yeah, and also the direct noise. So you need like a hall, and it's so I kind of hardly ever use it. Of course, like the baggage is very useful, you know, to have all that sort of, like, I don't know, I have 25 years or whatever, 20 years of this classical thing that's somewhere in my brain.
Yeah.
So kind of everything that has to do with structures and harmonies and all that comes kind of natural because of it.
Yeah.
And it's working with other musicians is easier. You know, sometimes I see people who are into house music who are kind of awesome DJs, and they really have like the finger on the pulse. What's the sound of today and all that? But like they know nothing about sort of the music theory, or you know, they don't speak the same language. So sometimes you see them sort of having miscommunication in studios with, if there's whatever a key player coming in or a singer coming in who is from that world. So that's useful. Yeah, that's it, I suppose.
I mean, that makes you actually, if I may say that, like a closer, like it makes you closer to mastery in that sense, because you understand the exact sound that you want to get to, but you can also speak the language of the person that you're speaking with.
Yeah, it helps. It helps for sure. There was a time when it also sometimes I made house music too correct. I really remember a moment where I felt like, oh, I need to get more dissonant stuff in there, because that's not even notes, but even in between notes, because that's what kind of house music is. You have this weird percussion sound, which is, it's not really a B or a C. It's somewhere in between, you know, and kind of that makes something cool also sometimes. And it's kind of, I was before making it too correct, and then it gets a bit Disney house. So so you also sometimes it can get a little bit in your way.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because one of he's a very close friend of mine. He's also a DJ and producer. Maybe you know Roy Rosenfeld.
Yeah.
We're very close friends.
Oh, he's awesome.
Yeah, we're very close friends, and we grew up together in Jerusalem.
I play a lot of sort of records.
And he's great. And we spent a week in 2023. We did a couple of tracks together, and I arranged actually his music for an orchestra. The biggest Lift of Love, I arranged it, and we wrote a new track. And I mean, he's so much on the road that it's like we want to do this like big project with an orchestra and this. The thing is, what was so fascinating for me is like I'm extremely, let's say, like my craft is high level. You can say that. I listen to thousands of hours of music and all that stuff, and transcribed, and the classical and the jazz and this. I realized during that process with him that it was working against me. Why? Because things were like, in my head, I had like patterns that this is how things should be.
Yeah.
And I try to come with like new melodies and stuff. And because with him, he has this like innocent part that hasn't been touched or corrupted by institutionalized music.
Yeah.
It really came from a very pure place. You know, it came from a pure place of, this is a melody that touches me. And I'm more like, this is a melody that's going to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Sometimes you also get really fresh music if people just jump from a genre to a different one. You know, people that, I mean, I follow a lot of house music, obviously, because of my work. And sometimes you get like really fresh stuff because some 20-year-old kid has been playing metal all his life, and then decides as fun to make house music. And he doesn't have all the baggage of all the rules of house music and stuff like that, you know, just sort of boulders in and just sort of, and I think that's, I think that's cool. You need to kind of throw away sometimes also your
It was an interesting process, because I'm sitting there like, I'm writing all these strings and the piano and this, and he was just sitting there like closing his eyes and just being like, no, it doesn't touch me. You know, I was like, no, something needs to change. And then I need to come with like the technical knowledge and kind of like play with the Sudoku of like strings and this until it was like that point, you know?
When it clicked.
When it clicked, yeah. But for me, it was a much more mental process, and for him, it was a physical, emotional process.
Yeah, I mean, my music not so much, but a lot of other stuff within dance music, especially for instance techno, it's a loop, you know, it's loop based.
Yeah.
So then it's just like a loop that goes on, and people are tweaking it and putting sounds in and out and mixing it and different until it's kind of it makes sense, you know. And there's very little logic to that. It doesn't sort of it has nothing to do with your background, I suppose. You know, it's kind of it's just like bunch of random sounds and until it's stick it, keep it, don't touch it anymore, and then now it's kind of it grooves, or it's kind of there's something cool about it or different about it compared to all the other records, you know. So it's a very different approach of making music, and that's kind of what's unique about dance music, I think, in a way.
Could you actually quantify it? I mean, my question, what I mean with that is, when do you know? For you, for Mason, you're working in the studio, you're listening to this loop for hours, and you're like, and then you know that something doesn't work there.
Yeah.
You know that something doesn't work. When do you know that it works? Is it a physical experience with you? Or
for me, I feel so, yeah. It's physical, and I also try to, I really kind of nurture the very sort of primitive idea that needs to be right and needs to kind of be genuine or something. I think you can ruin it by keep on tweaking it till it's right. So my way of working is just like as a tap, just create, and then throw 99% away and
kill your darlings.
And it's also kind of you're training sort of a certain creative muscle, and just like tap of running water. Once in a while, there's a little, you know, something cool comes out. And because I've also been in the trap of, okay, I have something that's kind of a 7 and I want to make it into a 10. I'm going to stick on the loop and keep on tweaking it. But for me, that doesn't really work because I kind of lose the innocent, genuine feeling. And I rather kind of save it and make something else and make something else. And I think once you have the right idea to finish it into a fat record and big, that's a very linear process. That's very crafty, and it's a little bit less, I don't know, I find it a little bit less creative and exciting. I can do that on any idea, but if that core idea isn't cool, you're polishing a turd. So for me, it's really separate moments where I kind of, you know, first I create shitloads, and then it's like, okay, track 37, now I'm going to throw the linear process of whatever, 4 days of making it into a full thing. But that's a really conscious choice when I kind of give it that attention.
So if I understand you correctly, like with my words, is that there is this beautiful dance between order and chaos, right? Because there's this order, the craft, experience, I know what it is, and chaos is, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I need to, and when it's verkaderd, like in Dutch, you know, when it's like placed in
boundaries.
In boundaries, yeah, exactly. That chaos can actually thrive in that sense. It's almost like life. You know, if you look at a plant growing within a pot, it needs that pot and needs that framework to work in. But how the plant is going to grow, you don't know.
Yeah, very true. And I think everybody does it in a different way. You can approach it from different ways. You can start with modular synthesizer. You can start with sampling. I even know guys who are massive and they know fuck all about music theory, and they play random notes on a bass, like just like did on a MIDI keyboard, and then do move the loops, move 1 bar or 2 bar loops until there's something that accidentally kind of works. You know, there are like so many ways people can work. I mean,
I'm so jealous of that, man. Honestly, you know why?
NPCs, obviously, in the past.
I'm so jealous of that. It's because I come from this, like, you have to know everything and you have to be able to just reproduce everything and have complete control and knowledge. Yeah. But then when I see that, I'm like, this is God, you know? This is like a divine
I think, you know, I don't know how my brain works or how your brain works, but I think, like, the craft side of things, you know, all these 10,000 hours you put in to your playing, I think that's one side of it, but that's sort of recognizing something that's cool. Also, those guys who's moving the 1 bar thing, it's the exact same thing as you have, you know.
Exactly.
That's genuine. That's real. I mean, that person has also listened to 10,000 hours of house music and know this certain bar. Now it works.
Yeah.
You know, that's just as good. And his craft is on a different, a different side.
Do you think talent exists? Do you think that's a real thing?
I think it's a bit overrated. I think everybody has a creative side. Maybe some have it a little bit more, but then that's just a starting point, and then it's throwing in those 10,000 hours and having discipline and having focus and all these kind of things.
So, anyone listening to this, you cannot achieve anything without putting a lot of time in it. That's
Maybe talent is 5% or so, something like that.
I think talent is like that beginning spark.
Yeah,
the spark that keeps you in that focus of, well, passion and curiosity combined together.
Yeah,
That's what creates it, you know. I mean, in my opinion, it could be, of course, we're just sharing opinions here, but that initial spark that puts you in, what is this? And then the curiosity that comes of what comes next is something that is so important and integral to any thing that we want to have thriving under our hands. Do you agree with that? Or
yeah,
I mean, it sounds complicated what I said.
No, 100%. It is the curiosity is really good that you mentioned that. I think the talent is maybe also in that sense the interest. You know, that you kind of feel there's something there that you want to explore and kind of, maybe it needs to be wired in your brain, you know, a certain way. So maybe it's not for everyone, but it's just a starting point. And then it's you know, we'll both know millions of examples of people who are not that musical, but, you know, do great things just because they put in the effort and the discipline and the hours and all that. And the other way around, some massive talented people who get nowhere.
I mean, think about it. You're 6 years old. You're singing in this TV program, Kinderen voor Kinderen, which I have the CD in my car.
Okay, guilty.
Because my wife is playing it for our kids. It's hilarious. You have this thing that just pulls you into the studio.
Yeah.
It's not like in 20 years, like, kids don't have that. Kids don't think planning. Kids think, I experienced this. Wow, what is this? Let me look at, what is this? You know, and do you feel that you still have it?
Yeah, I really love it. I just really love it. I love everything that has to do with studio work, and I really love DJing as well. Those two things are really genuine loves. Something, for instance, that I also never found with violin and stuff. It was really kind of this sort of love with, especially studio work, is pretty deep. So I'm going to do that for the rest of my life.
Man, I want to go to the studio with you, man.
Yeah. and I've very welcome. And I've never really considered myself very talented per se. I'm very medium, I think, in terms of talent. I do think I stand out that I'm sorry that I cut you. Do you mean talented or gifted? That's like, because again, we're going into and that becomes a bit terminology kind of complicated.
Well, there are some musicians I know that they have insane ears. I will never have their ears. They hear everything, no matter what you play. But that's a gift. That's a physical, genetic thing that.
Yeah, I don't think I always feel like I'm pretty mediocre. The only thing that I do stand out in that from young on onwards and still today, I think I kind of work harder than a lot of people, or more focus or something like that.
Yeah.
So if I would have a talent, it's that. It's not per se that I have better ears or better taste or this or that. I'm just very disciplined. I would probably, as a sort of tax accountant, I would probably also be pretty good, or because I would just put in the hours or something, you know. So I think I'm more like a working horse. It's a Dutch expression, but it's
sterkpaard.
Yeah, I think that's more my talent than anything else. Yeah,
I have to say that this is kind of common thing with high achieving people. It's not because you can be great. Let's say you can have genetic predisposition of something, but without the work, hard work and sacrifice, I don't think that it's possible to actually achieve something substantial because there is someone else somewhere that is doing these hours right now.
Yeah.
That is grinding and it's not about comparison. It's more about the fact that we are humans and we are in these structures of hierarchy. We are living in structures of competition. We are living in structures of achievement.
Yeah.
I mean, look at everything around.
It's massively competitive, so you need to, and also you need to also be ambitious. Like visualize. Okay, where we're going to? Otherwise, you need to be able to dream big, I think.
Yeah. So that's why when you say like I don't think I'm talented or gifted, but I work hard. That is a gift.
Yeah.
That is a gift. I can tell you 100% that is a gift. I mean, I know people, especially from like the whole instrumental industry, like let's say scene, I don't want to say industry, but scene, that they work extremely hard. But we call it in Hebrew pushing water, like grinding water. Because you can't grind water, You can try and grind water the rest of your life. You're not going to get anything.
Yeah.
Is because it's not directed to a place where it's actually making growth. It's directed into keeping status quo. I need to have great technique. I need to learn all these pieces. All right, cool. But what is the thing that differentiates you? Like you said it even yourself, the thing that differentiates you is that you work extremely hard, but at the same time, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is because you have a clear vision of what you want.
Yeah, but I think it's also, there's also a different side to that. I think also people get too preoccupied with growth, or at least, let's say, career growth, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's wider than music. Maybe that's a whole society thing. But it's, we can't all get to the number one top, And it would be a very frustrating industry if that would be everybody's goal to, So maybe that's also because I'm doing it a bit longer and I'm now mid-40s that I kind of...
You're mid-40s.
Yeah.
You're great.
Yeah. That's why, I kind of also realize it's also good like this. I want growth in my own personal or creative development and all that sort of things. But I don't need to have private planes or any bullshit. It's fine like this as well. As long as I can live from music, that I don't have to kind of struggle, that's enough, and then have creative freedom to kind of do projects that I like. That's cool. I think, because it's so competitive, especially within dance music and DJs, maybe it's in all sides of the music industry, but that's where I focus on. Everybody that gets kind of, at some point gets a little bit further, has this massive drive and ambition, because otherwise they wouldn't have even gotten to that point.
Absolutely.
That they got noticed. So that drive also kind of works against them sometimes, because they keep on trying to climb the ladder, but it also becomes a bit pointless because the ladder doesn't stop, and you'll never get there. There's no there, So I'm trying to look at it a bit different now.
I wonder also if it's really about success that they're after, or is it about not feeling a specific thing about themselves? Because I heard that quite often from people of like, I reached that point and I still feel like shit. And I'm not happy. So it's like, was it actually about your career, or was it about something underlining?
Sure. I mean, obviously to be on the stage and have a lot of people cheer at you and all that helps a lot of insecure people as a sort of drug.
Yeah.
And it's probably no solution.
The validation is
so there's probably something still behind that you still need to sort. Yeah. I'm no psychologist. I think the ambition thing is complicated. Within DJ world, there was quite a turmoil when Avicii died.
I was just about to ask you about it.
Yeah, and it was kind of in the same period where a lot of people fainted on stage.
Wow.
A lot of DJs.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, because there's a bit of a tendency, especially in the really sort of AAA list of DJs, to just keep on touring, and also their whole team around it, keep a DJ touring, because the music creation...
They want to feed the beast.
Yeah, and the music creation can be done. It's in dance music a lot of times done in teams. So you have songwriters writing ideas, you have other guys making the beats, and a DJ, the brand of an artist generates the most money if he keeps on touring, and he can sort of check in on all these ideas on headphones in hotel rooms, and I'll go for that vocalist, I'll go for idea number, the song number 27, bring it to him, to that guy to produce it further on the beats, and then maybe in 10 days I can drop by for half a day to listen, and in the meantime I'll give feedback over phone and my earplug. So a lot of the music on the top end of DJ culture is produced that way. Because if you can keep on touring, it just generates shitloads of money, and it's also much more mobile than a rock band that has 30 trucks of whatever. If you're an Iron Maiden, a DJ can, I travel alone, and if you're a bit bigger than I am, you maybe travel with 5 people max. But it's very mobile. You can do Ibiza in the afternoon and do Stockholm at night,
like I said, I'm close to Roy, and it's like, it's funny, people call him Rosie. I'm like, it's Roy,
Yeah.
like, because we know each other from since we're 10, and I see a schedule sometimes, and I'm like, dude, you gotta rest.
Yeah.
It's like,
and there's nobody who says that in a team. So an artist is not going to say it either, because they got to that point just because they have this wired thing in their brain that they're super ambitious and focused on goals, achieving goals, and there's always the next one.
Yeah.
At some point I toured with one of the biggest artists in the world, I won't name, and I noticed that person wasn't sort of, he had it all, he achieved everything.
I wanted to ask you about, because I know who it is,
yeah,
but if you don't want to mention.
Yeah, and he achieved everything he could achieve, but he felt like, no, we're just, we're just starting. I now need to get to do that and do that, and so that thing doesn't stop. And I think there was a bit of a change in how we see all that within the music industry around that Avicii and a few other things that happen, and now there's more awareness about it. That you need to make it a sustainable career. Also, I mean, a few decades ago, you had DJs who were like on drugs or alcoholics a lot of time. Right now, you kind of don't see that much anymore, just because there's more realization that you want it sustainable. And also, those people, for them, it obviously wasn't sustainable, so they got faded away. And people who had clear minds kind of...
it's funny how it's stigmatized, actually. I mean, it's really... Because, like I said, I saw it really from the inside. And I was like, all of them are just nerds. You know? Like, but like
bullied on school and then became the DJ.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's more like, I need to keep my body as clean as possible. I need to keep my mind and my body as clean as possible, because after a year or two of partying constantly, you can actually just die. I mean, in the sense of these amount of flights, and if you add substances into it, lack of sleep, biological clock flipping constantly, and so.
Loneliness, work-life balance. So I mean, and that's like a triple. So it's your private life versus your DJ life versus studio life, because a lot of people also really miss that. They start with the studio thing creating, and then they're all of a sudden on tour all the time. So they feel like, I'm not getting to that time, but also not my family. And so a lot of people struggling with all these kind of things. And then if you throw substances and all these things in the mix.
Wow, can't even imagine.
Yeah, so it's it's definitely romanticized a lot, and there's don't think we should complain about this industry. If you can make a living in this music, it's awesome. And there's also kind of, it's also probably a lot of downsides to working in the slaughterhouse or in a factory. So I'm not going to be bitching about being a musician, but it's there are definitely challenges, let's say, to continue doing it. And I've been doing it for 25 years, and I've seen also a lot of people come and go because of it. That couldn't handle to get turned down, by everybody, because you need to be able to get turned down by labels and agencies and festivals and this and that. Or they couldn't handle the lifestyle, the partying, the this or that.
Would you like to tell me a little bit about this artist that you toured with? How old were you? And
yeah, well, I mean, I've obviously toured with more people.
You
in my life.
You don't have to mention any names.
But I've toured with multiple big artists, I guess, and that was really inspiring to see the machinery of a massive artist from the inside. Because then you really see like how well thought of everything is, and how kind of yeah, it's a business, you know, and in a good way. And you know, just like a massive circus is also, you know, 20 people working around with headsets and a big theater show. You're getting to that point, and
yeah. I mean, what is the? Well, actually, no. There was one thing I want to just add to it. I remember when I was seeing the documentary of Avicii.
Yeah.
You know, that was a shocking moment for me when his manager would say he needs to decide if he wants to be healthy or he wants to be successful. That just like it scorched in my brain, you know, and I was just like, and you could see his health just deteriorating, you know, just not eating, taking all these, you know, these pills for his liver and continuously drinking, and just it was for me it was heartbreaking to see that, and then how it ended, of course, with him taking his own life. What is the part of FOMO, of fear of missing out? Do you think that is one of these components that makes people just constantly push themselves?
Yeah, I think, what we just talked about, like, I think there's ambition is not only a good thing, it can also be unhealthy.
Yeah,
I guess that's the same thing. The fear of, like, if I'm not doing it, somebody else is going to take that sort of Vegas residency or whatever.
Yeah. Did you also experience that?
I'm just sort of, I feel I've outgrown it a little bit, but I've also started as a 20-something. I had my biggest record when I was 26. That's some time ago, and I was kind of flown to every corner of the world for a few years, and so I've also been in that red race of, you know, who's doing where, who's doing that club. Why is he, you know, why is he in this country played the best club and I've only played the second best club? And you know, you're getting into, if you're, I'm happy I'm not sort of having that mindset anymore.
Was it a gradual process for you, or was there a moment that you just said, like, I need to start changing?
Yeah, I guess I just grew up a little bit. It also, I mean, to be honest, also my career at some point became quieter, and I, you know, had time to also refocus more on studio, and then kind of my whole perspective shifted a little bit. So, you know, if it would have kept on going the way it was in my 20s, maybe I wouldn't be able to say if I would have stepped out of that red race. But it kind of naturally, organically moved into more studio stuff, and I'm still touring and I'm still DJing all that, but it's not like so dramatic, because it was hysteric. And it's also, you know, when you're 25, what more do you want in life than stand with a vodka in a club in Singapore? You know, like, you know, it's there's
and have people like, wow,
and all your friends want to come along, and they all loved it. Now everybody has a life, and
kids, family,
and I have kids and family. You know, so it's, you know, it all changes a little bit. Not to say that I want to quit DJing or not do this, but, like, you know, there are other things in life that I find important as well.
Yeah. What do you see actually in the future for yourself in that sense?
Well, after the last 10 years, majority of my work week, let's say, is still writing, producing music. But I started to do a few things on the side. Been in a few boards to support the position of creators and pop musicians in general.
Awesome.
In the Netherlands. So we're very involved in terms of to get more funding from the government, to kind of create more opportunities for talent. So that's stuff that I really enjoy, also because it's a different side of my brain to work with instead of programming hi-hats. And and the other thing is
so specific.
Yeah.
To program
you know, that's just, it's still kind of a very, that's a very you do it on your gut or something, and it's not very. You don't need to be a brainiac for that. And the other thing, I've just started a new adventure to create a hub of 13 studios in Amsterdam, to create a sort of community of musicians and producers and songwriters to create an inspiring place. Here in Amsterdam. We just opened it. So
you just where in Amsterdam, so people can.
It's in Amsterdam West. It's called Recorder with a K. And and we're really in the process of crafting this, and that's been a dream for me to create a cool place with partners where a lot of music is being made.
So it's like a broedplaats.
Yeah, but we don't focus on that side of things where it's for fragile income position artists. This is more quite high-end studios, so it's a very pro community. So that's a new thing that I'm working on, and yeah, apart from that, just making music for myself and for others. And I think I don't see myself stopping doing that anytime soon.
Yeah. Was it something actually that because you said you always wanted to do it, but was it like a thing that you put on the back burner and then the right time came and you said like, I want to give back to the community in that sense? Because that's giving back to the community, right?
Yeah. But I it would be very flattering to say that I'm doing it to give back to the community, but also doing because I just find it very interesting and very interesting to see the whole perspective of the music industry in a broader sense. And being, for instance, the head of the members board of Puma Stemra, which is a Dutch organization that divides all that collects and divides all publishing money, copyright money. I'm head of the members board there, so we were so involved in everything, like for how much money YouTube pays towards to things like how do you get paid out from gas stations to like it's the whole, and how do you divide that money? It's 240 million a year, and a lot of people depend their livelihood on it.
Yeah.
If you're a songwriter, so that was so interesting for me. So it triggered a lot of things that I kind of liked, a more broader perspective of the music industry. It's a different subject we can talk about for the next few hours.
Please, man. I mean, I love it. I mean, that's the thing that, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, is that it's not necessarily this. I don't see it necessarily as like it's for industry people or this. It's actually also for people that are interested in the story behind the person, what they do, and also the craftsmanship, or let's say the logistics behind it. Because a lot of people, they have, I'm talking more about public that is consuming music, they don't necessarily know the whole process of that. And I think that this should be more, this should be brought more into the public eye to make it more clear for people that it is a job.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not an easy job. It's I kind of see it as like the nicest possible work in the most difficult possible industry, something like that. And it's a trade-off. I think it's a worthwhile trade-off, but I still see it as an impossible industry. And so that's just the nasty stuff you have to deal with. Yeah. Because the work itself, the day-to-day work is really nice.
Did you have moments where you felt like, how are you with time? You're checking time?
I have to leave in a few.
In a few minutes?
Yeah.
You have to leave. Oh no.
We can cut this out, right?
We can cut this out, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry, I have to go somewhere.
No worries, let me get back to this. So, how long do we have, actually?
Like
10 minutes, okay. Yeah. So, could you tell me about the worst experience that you had on stage?
On stage? I had a few. One of the worst ones, when I was really young, I think one of my first times playing abroad, I got arrested and thrown in jail just because of being on stage.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was a thing because I was 19. I was in Finland, and they just arrested the whole party, like not the crowd, but everybody working there. So also the bar staff and they threw us all tie wraps and got into a jump over, strip search naked, and all the whole shebang. It wasn't internal. I don't mind. But so there was that, and so there was a thing. I one time got beaten in China, like around the millennium, because I was playing English lyrics and they thought it was offensive.
Wow.
It's like imperialistic. I remember that one. That was kind of horrible. I got once fined on stage, which was in front of audience. That was kind of nasty.
So like a handhaver came.
Yeah, and on stage, and I had to and like 1,000 people watched it. I had to give my sort of driving license and blah, blah, blah.
Did you have to stop the music? Or did it run?
Yeah, well, it was a whole it's a whole podcast we can go to that one. I played on the wrong party accidentally, which was interesting. I've played on parties where I got to like a military base in Brazil, and like on the way there, the guy said like, "Oh, by the way," like in the car too, it's all guys, all military guys basically, and they hate electronic music. And I was getting there. I was like half the size of everyone there, ready to with a bag full of electronic music. So it keeps on going on. I think it's that side of, I think I cherish more the bad shows than the good ones, I think.
Of course. I mean, they stay, man.
They stay, and then there's like parties where a lot of people danced, and there's awesome parties, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to be honest, I was late to this podcast because I was looking for parking here, and but I enjoyed really talking to you, and I would really love us to do this again.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Please. Yeah. People didn't see it, but we actually started the podcast, I think, like 10 minutes before, just talking to each other. Mason was interested in my path. I'm interested in his path. It was really great having you here.
Yeah. Well,
Man,
thanks for having me.
Would you like to plug anything? Would you like to say anything, something that's coming up? I mean, you talked about, of course, your
we
studio.
We can go back to the music, to the marketing side of things. My manager would now like to say a few words. That you can find me on all the channels at /Music of Mason. So there you go. That was my marketing plug. That's how average I am at it.
I mean, you can say it also to this camera. Then.
Yeah. Well, hope you guys find me on shows and Spotify. And well, I just keep on grinding. And as long as there are a few people that dig it, I'm happy.
I think that you have more than a few. I think it's a lot. And again, Mason, thank you so much for doing this. We're going to see each other for sure in the future. And thank you, Joao and Costa, for hooking it up and for the studio here. And everybody that have been listening, please like and subscribe and continue following us. Follow Mason, of course. Follow everybody that is coming to this podcast. We have so much more content for you coming up. And we will see you at the dance floor or the gig or the studio.